Oh, the places you'll go. Story told by Team 1. We'll be doing an analysis of student opinions and careers. So the main reason that we did this research is because when students come to CMU, they want to find internships and eventually a full-time job. So we want to know what is important to Central Michigan students when they're looking for these things. Before we do the research, let's meet the trio that brought it all together. 2 wenches and a scribe.
In no particular order, the first member of our group is bitchin' Ben Good. He's the legal guardian of Alex and lover of graphs.
Next we have Lane Zabari, official scribe, shortest member of our group, and brings the most creative thought and process to everything that we do.
The last member is Alex LeGroux, tall, handsome, tan, eligible bachelor. His 3 favorite questions are what, so what, now what.
After analyzing our research, we found that CMU should focus on bringing in companies with good reputations, provide meaningful work for their interns and full-time employees, and have a strong company culture. For our agenda, we're going to go through the objectives, we'll talk about our research method, we'll move into all of the results that we found, and then we'll summarize it all. For our objectives, we first looked at sample analysis. We wanted to see if our sample looks like the population. Moving to conjoint, we want to see how customers make choices, what attributes are most important to them, and those preference levels within the attributes. Moving to max diff, we wanted to see what is most and least importance in regards to internships and full-time positions. Ending with CX analysis, we wanted to see what is most and least important to students and how our competitors are performing along with how we're performing, and look to see what improvement opportunities there are.
For our research method, we administered a web-based survey to students in the College of Business. There may have been limitations, as with any survey, and that would have been potential survey fatigue and not having comparative data. However, we are confident with our results. So without further ado, let's look at our results. To start, we're going to look at our sample analysis. So once we administered the survey, one of the first questions we asked our respondents was, have they had an internship? And as you can see from the graph, 78.7% said yes and 21.3% said no. So what does this all mean? So for the what, 79% of our sample has had an internship, and with that, the main point that we should take away from that is a majority of our sample has had a summer internship or some other type of work experience within the field. So what CMU should do in this situation is try to find a way to reduce that number, the 21% that has not had an internship, and make it 100% of students having an internship within their relative field.
So now looking at this graph, we're looking at the gender of the respondents that took this survey. And as you can see here, now we're going to go over conjoint analysis. The first thing we're going to look at is the major of our respondents. You can see here the majority of them are marketing and logistics major. A thing to take note on is many of our students are both marketing and logistics majors, so that's why we have a 96% for marketing. So with that, these marketing and logistics majors, what they actually want to pursue for their career, we see it's about 64% for marketing and 36% for logistics. So we see more of our students want to pursue a career in marketing. So what this means, like I said before, the students are mostly marketing majors, and this is also what they want to pursue in. So we need to make sure that we focus on bringing in companies that are looking for marketing interns.
When we asked the type of job that students are looking to pursue, it was predominantly consulting with a little bit of research. There was really no interest in retail or sales. What this means is that the majority of our sample is interested in pursuing a consulting position, so they're more inclined to look for internships and full-time jobs that have consulting involved. So now what? We need to bring in more consulting firms in order to provide those for our students.
So when students are looking to internship or settle down for their full-time job, location is a big thing that a lot of people take into account. Clearly, what you can see from the data is that people are looking for a suburb location, but let's not neglect the fact that people are always interested in a little city life. That is a very close second compared to rural with a negative 17.1%. So what does this mean? A little over half of our sample wants to live in the city, and the rest prefer a suburban area. What's the importance of this? Our sample is almost evenly split on the type of area they want to live in, so there is really no restrictions on where internships should be located. And then now what? CMU should definitely look in finding an even amount of companies that are located in those rural and those urban areas.
So next we asked our respondents to take a look at where they would prefer to work, whether it would be an office environment or to be a road warrior where you're going out doing sales calls or whatever else on the road. So what this means, our sample prefers the office environment. So when we're looking at the SOA, our students are going to be looking for internships that provide them that office environment rather than the road. And now what, as Central Michigan, we need to bring in companies that allow this office environment. So the next preference level that we're going to look at is salary, and really no surprise here, most students want $60,000 if they had the choice, and then $50,000, of course, $40,000 being the least. So what our students are looking for that high salary, so again, they're going to be looking for internships and jobs that provide them that. And at Central Michigan, we need to bring in companies that are offering this type of salary or close to that in the first couple of years at the job.
When looking at how far students are willing to travel from their home where their families are to their workplace, it's obvious that most people are only willing to drive roughly an hour from where their family, their parents, their siblings, and all of that are. So what this means for Central is that the majority of our sample, their ideal distance is about an hour drive from home. So our sample is really time sensitive in regards to distance from their family members. So Central needs to look for companies that are located near big cities or suburbs in order to increase involvement because of the fact that it's not too far from home. When looking at attribute importance, clearly type of job is the most important, followed closely by the starting salary, along with fit with the company culture, and again, the distance from home. Location and work environment are important as well, but just not as important as the other. So what this means for Central, our sample is most concerned with the type of job compared to the other attributes. So students are looking for a job that pertains to their major rather than the other characteristics. So now Central needs to be cognizant of what companies they bring in to make sure that they're bringing what the students are interested in to the table.
So next up, we have max diff analysis. A little background on max diff for those of you who don't know. We give our sample a list of attributes, and they have to rate their most preferred and their least preferred. And this way, it helps us figure out which of the attributes are most important to our sample analysis. So here we have all of the different attributes listed on our graph. Clearly, you can see that the work environment is the most important. That being said, it makes a lot of sense that students are going to be looking for internships where they feel comfortable in that environment and they're willing to work within that environment and the people around them. Next, we have advancement and culture fit, which are tied with 11.6. This makes a lot of sense. That culture fit tying back into that environment, making sure that they fit into that environment. And with advancement, of course, you're going to want to see the fruits of your labor. So you're going to want to be able to move up quickly within that company, or even just be shown that wherever you go in, you can move up from there. So what does this mean? Clearly, the environment and advancement and culture fit are the most important when it comes to our students. So what? We're going to be looking at companies that do offer those types of credentials and that atmosphere. So for CMU, with the now what we should be looking at is looking at firms that do promote that kind of atmosphere and where students can have that. So in regards to the full-time job, it makes a lot of sense that advancement would be at the top, right? You don't want to be at the same job for an extended amount of time and not see yourself progressing through the ranks. Once again, just like the internship, the environment and culture fit are very important. If you're going to be there in the long term, you want to be happy with the people you're working with and the environment that promotes you to do the best. So the what? Like I said in the graph, the advancement is the most important, as well as that culture fit, which makes a lot of sense. You're going to be in a place for a long time. You want to be able to move up, and you want to be able to feel comfortable in that environment. So the now what? Just like with the internship, we think that CMU should look for companies that offer that exact work environment for people who are looking for a full-time job, and really focus on companies that are allowing students to feel that they're empowered and have the ability to move up within the ranks.
We're going to look at the attribute difference between those students that are looking for an internship and those that are looking at a full-time job. And you see the numbers highlighted here, just the differences, the biggest differences that we found between the internship and the full-time job. So the biggest differences is advancement and job aligned with major. So definitely when students are looking for an internship, they're looking for something more aligned with their major. So a lot of times they need it to graduate. They need something that is aligned, whether it's with the marketing or logistics department. On the so what is we need people looking for a full-time job care more about the opportunities once they get in the career, other than kind of the entry level things. And then now what we need to cater companies for internships and full-time jobs a little bit differently. We're going to jump into CX analysis now, and what this is all about is we're looking at two different variables, a dependent variable, which is the NPS score, and independent variables. NPS score is an overall universal type of question asking kind of their preference, or in this case, their overall evaluation of an internship. And then we're going to look at the independent variables, which are going to be the different attributes that kind of drive that NPS score. So as I was saying, the first thing we're going to look at is the dependent variable, in this case, the NPS score. And what we're looking at is Central Michigan's overall evaluation of the internship. As we can see here, the promoters, or the people that really enjoyed it, were about 46.9%. And then the people that really did not enjoy it was about 31.2. So when we get our NPS score, we're just subtracting our promoters by our detractors, and that's how we get our 15.7. So the what, the so what, and now what for that chart. First thing we notice is we have an NPS score of 15.7. What we really need to take away from that is we do have more promoters than we do detractors, but what we need to do is try to get the number of detractors up and be promoters and really enjoy the internship opportunities.
Looking at internship attribute performance, it's pretty clear to see that they're all very close to each other, but relationship, reputation, culture fit, environment are all at the top, and then with variety of work, onboarding process, and stress being more toward the bottom. So what this means for Central, the attribute that's most important is the relationships, and then the least important is the level of stress within the job. So students want internships where they will have positive relationships with management, and then students really are looking to build those relationships with their coworkers. So Central needs to look for internship opportunities that give students the ability to build relationships with upper management and have a successful internship. We compared attribute performance levels from us here at Central to our rivals over at Western. So with reputation, you can see that we are at an advantage. We have that circled on the left just to show the difference, and then over on the right side of the graph, you can see that variety, there's a big difference there. And then along with the onboarding process and stress, that's more important to students at Western than it is here to us at Central. So this means that compared to Western, students believe that the relationships with the supervisors is the most important. And then, so what, having a positive relationship with your manager is an important quality to our students here at Central. Now what, Central should definitely look for internships that promote healthy relationships with upper management.
So next up, we have a graph showing our performance ratio compared to Western. So a little background on the performance ratio. Basically, we're looking at us and divided by them. We also are looking at if we have an advantage in these fields. Anything that's above a 1.03, we have a advantage of, and anything below a 0.97, we have a disadvantage in. Anything between those two numbers is our zone of indifference, and it really doesn't matter what that score is. It's nothing that's really comparable. So that being said, we're looking at what our biggest advantage is, and Central definitely has a larger variety of work compared to Western, no surprise, as well as reputation and fit. That being said, let's get on to the what, so what, and so for the what, our strongest advantage over Western is the variety of work opportunities. Again, no surprise, CMU 1,000 times better. But our biggest weakness is the relationship students experience with their supervisor. So what does this mean? We have a definite advantage in providing more opportunities for our students for internships and post-graduation work. The now what, though, however, CMU should look for ways to bring in employers who promote good relationships with interns and supervisors, because that is something that we were struggling with the most, and we definitely got to be Western on that one. So next we have a graph showing which attributes are the most important to students in regards to having a positive experience with internship and long-time work employment. At the top we have reputation with 0.69%, which makes a lot of sense. You want to be working for a well-known company that has a very good reputation. You don't want to be working for a company like Enron. Secondly, we have meaningful work. You want your work to be going towards the greater goal, not just doing kind of busy work that has no importance to the company. And again, we have culture fit. which makes a lot of sense. You want to be able to feel comfortable in that work environment just to kind of promote that healthy balance between work and play. So the what, so what, now what. For the what, obviously, like we said in the beginning, the most important thing when students are trying to pick out their job or their internship is the reputation of the firm and the value of work that they're doing. So what, students will be more likely to apply to firms with a higher reputation, which makes a lot of sense. You're going to be wanting to apply to those companies like Apple or Microsoft and nothing underneath that. And that just kind of goes to show that students are aware and conscious of the people they're working for. It's not kind of like a blind decision. So the now what, CMU should bring in more companies with high reputations, and don't bring in the companies that have bad reputations, because students won't really be likely to apply to them or stay there in the long term. So here is a list of all of our attributes. Here we have our primary drivers, reputation and meaningful work being at the top. And we have our secondary drivers, which are your culture fit, interesting work, and the environment of your work.
So we had to ask our students the central need to improve. And as you can see, 60% of our students said that we do need to improve. So looking at this, again, 59% of the sample says that we need to improve. What we need to take away of this is a lot of our students see that there are problems and that we need to do something about it. And so just with the now what, CMU should focus on bringing those companies in that are appealing to them and what they're actually looking for. So of those students that said that we needed to improve, this is what they said needs to be our #1 improvement. Obviously a meaningful work, and then compensation being the top two. So again, taking a look at it, 18% of our population believes that the work needs to be meaningful. So what we need to take away is students really have put a lot of effort and importance on doing work that means something to them and that will eventually mean something to the company as well. So CMU needs to look to bring in these companies that get them involved in doing that important work. On this graph, our x-axis is going to be our performance ratios, and our y-axis is going to be our attribute importance. So we just set this up in a graphic that makes it pretty easy to look at both of those things at the same time. You have the 0.97, the 1.03, again being that zone of indifference. So you can see what are our major weaknesses, our minor weaknesses, strengths, and minor strengths in a kind of a quadrant type of form. We can see that Central has a lot of strengths, but some of our major weakness is that our internships are not at places that have a good work environment and that have a good things to do after work. So what we need to do, or what is important for our students, is they want those type of things in their internship environment. And so what we need to do is we need to bring in companies that provide those after work activities and that really good work environment that they're looking for.
Okay, so to kind of summarize everything that we've talked about throughout this presentation, our sample consisted primarily of marketing and logistics students that are looking for consulting-based internships or jobs. So our students are looking for a good culture within the company, lots of opportunities for growth and advancement while staying relatively close to their homes. Our students want to have close relationships with management team along with the feeling of making a difference within the company. So you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Thanks, Garver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Drops mic.
Yeah.